years ago, I met with a CFO from a medium-sized company in the Midlands, a company called Parts Alliance. Parts Alliance is a very traditional business. They sell car parts to garages. You are a garage owner in Solihull and you call them up and you say, I have a Mercedes SL in my garage. It needs a new brake pad. Do you have one? How much is it going to cost me? By when can you send it to me? So Parts Alliance had this group of hundreds of salespeople who were manning the phones every day, taking these sort of calls. And what they had was the guide price for each part. But key to the story here, they also, each salesperson had a right to negotiate on the phone, up or down, around the price. So the CFO came to me and said, well, I think we can do this better. I think we can probably make better decisions around our pricing using all the data that we have. I think we can just tweak our business model a tiny bit and be better. What do you think? I said, sure, let's give it a try. So we brought in a couple of data scientists and they started to dig into the about 20 million different data points that this company had. And 20 million may sound like a lot, but actually any sort of business that's been going for a while typically will have these sort of data amounts in their portfolio, in their databases. So it was a decent amount, a good amount for us to start with. So they started to dig into the 20 million data points. And before even looking at pricing, they discovered, for example, that there were quite unique customer groups. There were certain groups that bought frequently in a large variety of different products. There were some that bought infrequently and only one specific type of part. By knowing, of course, these sort of different groups, Parts Alliance can market differently to these different groups and make sure that they get information and promotions that are relevant to who they are. On top of that, of course, they realized that there was a large range in performance between the best performing and the worst performing sales teams. So they were able to really identify which were the best teams and then suggest ways of best practice that was employed within that team and how to transfer that into the less performing sales teams. So before we even looked at pricing, we already found some information that was really interesting to the company and really valuable to the company. And then we started to look at pricing, indeed. And we started to look at historical values and what sort of prices we could have sold to. And they came up with a model that recommended a particular price based on the time of the day of the week, who the salesperson was, who the buyer was, what the part was, etc., taking all this information into account. And they came up with a model which, had it been employed historically, would have given the company £6 million extra revenue. Now, £6 million extra revenue also goes straight down to the bottom line, because this is not about selling greater volumes or different parts. It's selling the same parts, but at a slightly more optimal price. So £6 million, 5% uplift on the company profits that year. And that's, of course, the point I'm trying to make here. This does not have to be hard. This does not have to be about going for the latest, greatest, deepest tech innovation. This is about doing something you already do a little bit better.
Like from kind of one of the things always about data science is kind of the fact that it's a big thing and actually you can help, and I get that. But I think kind of the question I always have is, where do you start and how do you get to grips with actually?
Starting with, do you have data? And then second step, how good is that data? Is it clean? How much of it is there? Do you have access to it? The third step is, what's the question you want to ask? So we start just very, very vague in that sense about what are the first steps. Then it's about bringing on management, assuming that you're not the CEO yourself, then it's about bringing your team on board, bringing your seniors on board, making decisions about technology, what kind of technology you want to use. Then you bring on your data science team, and I can talk a little bit about whether you want to outsource or bring a team in-house. And that's sort of getting to proof of concept. So it's a long way, it's 6 steps, 6 or 7 steps until you get even to having a proof of concept. And then I talk about, well, when you go from there to actually being data-driven, it includes, of course, having a distinct budget for it. It includes having a feedback mechanism between your data science team and the rest of the organization. And finally, it's about getting buy-in from the whole organization. Also, for example, in the case of Parts Alliance, making sure all those salespeople are really excited about working with that model and feeling that it's going to make them more successful rather than feeling that it's stepping on their toes.
Okay, great. Well, Kim, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today.
Yeah, thanks so much, Kim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.